We're reading An Open Heart Notes Back to Front by the Dalai Lama. We're on page 34 and we have started chapter 2. Let us explore how this can be applied to our spiritual practice. As we work at developing ethical discipline, for example, we must first understand the value of engaging in moral conduct. Moral conduct. For Buddhists, ethical behaviour means avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions. Oh, there's so many rules in Buddhism, man. There's going to be the 10 non-virtuous actions, the 5 this, the 4 that. They've all got little names and they're all grouped together. But I read the Bodhisattva vow book from Geshe Khalsang. And I read it all, and then I just realised that if you try to act with all of the vows at the same time, you're just being a really thoughtful, considerate and good person. So it was an eye-opener to me that that's what the Dharma was about. It wasn't so much, it's not, there's this phrase, isn't there? It is not the moon, it's the finger pointing at the moon. So it's very hard to explain, but all of these words are just pointing to an inner state of happiness or inner state of kindness and maturity. And it's it's not so much that you have to follow the rules. It's supposed to be taking you to this really mature state. But you have to do a lot of reading and get over the rules and challenge yourself to be able to tap into that. I mean, I could have tapped into it, what was it, about 15 to 20 minutes after I read the book. There were 3 kinds of non-virtuous actions. Acts done by the body, actions expressed by speech, and non-virtuous thoughts of mind. It's very important here to understand with Buddhism. Non-virtuous. Another way of describing non-virtue in Buddhism is to say non-beneficial. So it's not like Christian stuff, where there's sin and you're going to be judged and go to hell. It's more about if you follow this, and virtue is more a state of peace and calm and kindness, obviously, but it's not the same emphasis as Christian stuff. Is it beneficial? Is it helping you, or is it helping their path? If you can help their path, it's difficult to be able to tell what's going on in someone else's mind. So yeah, non-virtue, it doesn't mean, does not mean like a Christian sort of like vibe, or a Catholic vibe, or a Western sort of like non-virtue vibe. And non-virtuous thoughts of the mind. We refrain from the 3 non-virtuous actions of body: killing, stealing and sexual misconduct. So killing means everything, including animals. Stealing is obviously stealing, and sexual misconduct is about how you deal with your life in your sexual life. The 4 non-virtuous actions of speech are lying and divisive, offensive and senseless speech. Lying, divisive, offensive and senseless speech. And the thing with it is, like when I was a nun, I tried to practice honesty. Because I had this realisation really early on that if you can live your life fully honest, you don't have to, which I've got no memory, as anyone who knows me knows, you don't have to remember anything. You can just be yourself wherever you are. So the lying bit I got completely. Divisive is a bit like lying, because if you're starting to be all like divisive, then you've got some plans and shenanigans going on in your mind. But we often do divisive in the sense that we try to create things that are better for us. So we just try to twist reality around us to make us look better. Offensive is fair enough. And senseless, again, is the focus of senseless isn't so much like, you know, comedy or anything like that, because Tibetan Buddhism is very keen, not NKT, I need to add, but wider Tibetan Buddhism is all about laughing. So So, yeah, censored speech doesn't mean having fun. It just means talking nonsense, maybe. And the 3 non-virtuous actions of mind: covetousness, malice, and wrong views. Malice and wrong views. And wrong views are obviously, when you get to know Buddhism, they're all about the stuff that keeps us stuck with our attachments and all of that, and our delusions. Again, it's not a sin-based thing. Covetousness and malice, I think that's fair enough. We can appreciate that developing such restraint is only possible once we have recognised the consequences of these actions. For example, what is wrong with censored speech? What are the consequences of indulging in it? We must first reflect on the way idle gossip leads us to speak badly of others, wastes a lot of time, and leaves us unfulfilled. We then consider the attitude we have towards people who gossip, how we really don't trust them and would not feel confident in asking their advice or confiding in them. Maybe you can think of other aspects of censored speech that are unpleasant. Getting some homework there. Such reflection helps us restrain ourselves when we are tempted to gossip. It is the seemingly elementary meditation practices that I believe, the most effective way of bringing about the fundamental changes necessary in our quest for happiness. I have to agree with him. The thing I found with Buddhism is like Dune, the film, where there's like visions within visions within visions. So you think initially, oh, you know, whatever, these are only the beginning, they're sort of like behavioural things, it's a bit shallow. You know, I've really got to read the really big text about emptiness and all the rest of it. But what I've learned is if you can't get these things right, you can't meditate, because your mind finds any excuse to waffle and make and talk bullshit. So if you've been angry with somebody, you can't meditate because you think, oh, I shouldn't have been angry, and you obsess about how to sort it out and all the rest of it. So these things, and then, you know, being honest has got its own ramifications, but in the long run, it is the best thing, but not always. It's not always in the short run. But that's why the most. You think these aren't profound, but if you sit with them, you'll find they're profound. I've got a little bit longer. The 3 jewels of refuge. I think this is where the NKT maybe have gone a little bit wrong. From the outset of the Buddhist path, the connection between our understanding of the way things are and our spiritual behaviour is important. It is through this relationship that we establish that we are followers of the Buddha. A Buddhist is defined as one who seeks ultimate refuge in the Buddha, in his doctrine known as the Dharma, and in the Sangha. It was the biggest journey of my life. I was not going to be called religious by anybody because I thought it was a sign of mental infirmity. And then I ended up being a Buddhist nun. It was a big journey for me. A Buddhist is defined as one who seeks ultimate refuge in the Buddha, in his doctrine known as the Dharma, and in the Sangha, the spiritual community that practices according to the doctrine. These are known as the 3 jewels of refuge. I think you need to remember, though, a Buddha isn't a religious icon. He's within you, so he's your wisdom and humanity's divine wisdom and understanding of reality. So although we will project like an Tibetan Indian vibe or some kind of intrinsic racist vibe if you're white, or, you know, like some kind of cultural thing about jewelry or something, the Buddha is beyond all that. He is our global awareness, consciousness, and stuff like that. So you do need to look beyond the clothes of the society he's been taught to us from, and the way humans see him, and try and contact Buddha through your understanding of what wisdom is and what your understanding of what kindness is, and, you know, through your best humanity. That's how you find out what Buddha is. So you take refuge in the Buddha, not in the picture of Buddha or the society's idea of Buddha, but in your understanding of wisdom and maturity. And then, so that when you then turn to the scriptures, which is the Dharma, that just means this is regarded as Dharma. It's just the teachings and that. What you're taking refuge in is not the books and the paraphernalia, which is obvious. You're taking refuge in the words that mean something to you, and the things that stick with you, and the way that it's worked for you. And you take refuge in constantly learning the new ways of seeing things and testing yourself and opening up, and and however that takes you. Like some people, like me, it took me to become a nun. Other people, it takes them to become something else. Now it's taken me to become a mum. So, you follow your understanding of the Dharma, and that's the Dharma. Remembering we can always learn something. And then Sangha, that's your friends who are your like-minded friends. And just because, as you're all going to know, I'm going to say this, but just because you have got friends, you feel like they're your friends and they run the same group as you, Dharma group or whatever, doesn't mean that they're your Sangha. Your Sangha are people that take you closer to this clarity and this wisdom, and support you to be the best you can be. Okay.